When application completion rates drop, something is off. Students aren't getting the support they need, and that's affecting your numbers. Enter Element 451's AI assistants. They step in where students struggle, offering real-time answers and advice, guiding them through every step. Learn how AI assistants can boost your enrollment outcomes. Visit element451.com/AI team to learn more.
A lot of institutions are struggling to be able to put all that comprehensive information together. And so their communications out to that student are really desperate, right? Like financial aid is sending one set of emails. The registrar's office is sending another set of emails. An advisor is sending a third set of emails that are all saying, slightly different things. It becomes difficult for that student to piece all that information together. The more we can bring all that together comprehensively and provide like one communication that covers everything that student needs to do, or maybe even like a portal that they can log into and manage their relationship with your institution, the better off they can be and the more timely you can provide information to them.
Yeah, and I think that's a positive point out by several other commenters on this post is that this hold does provide an opportunity to ensure that the student is aware of their situation. It can be preventative if they don't know what they owe, and then maybe the next term's bill's added, and at that point the number just looks astronomical and it impacts them in a number of different ways, and it's an insurmountable number to pay. Or it's just to inform them of the process, right?
Welcome to the EduData Podcast, a podcast that serves as your weekly guide to the data driving higher education. We are your hosts. I'm Jamie Boggs.
And I'm Timothy Davis. Join us every Friday for weekly breakdowns of the most important data, trends, and topics in higher education.
The EduData Podcast is a part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the EduData Podcast. My name is Timothy Davis, joined as always by Mr. Jamie Boggs. Hey, Jamie, how we doing?
I'm doing well, man. Happy to be here. How are you?
Doing good. Just right before we started recording, Jamie told me that he is now watching through Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is one of my all-time favorite shows. So shout out to Brooklyn Nine-Nine. If you know,
9-9's a number. Maybe we can work that into an episode sometime.
9-9? Okay, cool. Well, this episode, we are going to be talking about holds and their effect on student persistence. And this level of inquiry started for me when I saw a LinkedIn post, a little LinkedIn poll actually, from Jenna Garsher. If you follow Jenna Garsher on LinkedIn, she's a great LinkedIn follow. She posts a lot of polls, has a job board, talks about various topics around higher ed. Really great LinkedIn follow. So shout out to her. Thank you for posting this and starting this conversation. But her post was this: do you think financial holds are necessary in higher education? She got 350 votes on this thing. That's numbers for LinkedIn. Well done. My goodness. The options were yes, they protect institutions. No, they halt student progress. Only for large amounts. That's saying like only large financial holds are necessary. And then the fourth option was just like the show me the results option. About 18% went for just the show me the results option. They wanted to know. And I think I actually did that too, because I was like, I really don't know. I have no context for this. Of the three main options, the two that got the most were no, they halt student progress, right? That got 37% of all votes, including the people who just did the not sure option. And then the other larger set said only for large amounts at 31%. And then the yes, they protect institutions option got only 14% of the vote, which was even lower than the folks that just didn't know and wanted to find out. So interesting results there. And it kind of got us talking like what holds of any kind, whether they be financial, which is I think what Jenna was asking about, or just administrative. Transcript holds. There's a variety of them out there. And so we went out and we found a couple of articles, some research and some surveys from mainly Inside Higher Ed that were at least published and journaled by Inside Higher Ed. We'll link those articles in the show notes. But Jamie, you want to launch into that and tell us what we found?
Yeah, absolutely. First, let's define holds. I know it's mostly education folks listening here, but if you just showed up for our personalities and you want in on the inside info, holds are basically something that an institution will use for a variety of reasons. Like you said, it could be delayed fees, it could be parking tickets, it could be not filling out the proper form, it could be 100 different things. I was actually looking through the Element 451 database, and there were so many options. There were 145 different titles of holds in our system from our partners. So a ton of different things. Obviously, some of those are similar and just named differently, but and those holds are going to prevent students from registering from classes or getting their transcripts or moving forward with their advisor or traveling abroad. Like it's essentially something put in place to force a student's hand to complete an action or take care of an issue. So, and most institutions, all maybe, use them to some degree. And an article I found was really focused on, and again, this is on Inside Higher Ed, it's college holds disproportionately affect students of color as the title. And it certainly does cover that, but it goes more into the actual impact that we see. As far as the race breakdown, in the students that were surveyed, 18% of white students and 16% of Asian students have reported at some point being unable to register for classes due to a hold, versus 29% of Black students and 24% of Latino students. So that is a very large discrepancy there of this impacting students of color and their ability to move forward. And I feel like in every data set we bring up, Timothy, it's that shows itself that there's so many barriers in higher ed for minorities, and here's another one.
Absolutely. Yeah. It feels like every data set that we cover, like when you look at the race breakdown, like white students are doing better and Black students and Latino students are doing worse. So yeah, that's always something to be paying attention to in higher education, and underscores the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
Also, we see that more students that identify as having a learning disability or another condition that makes learning difficult, like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, dyslexia, being on the autism spectrum, 26% of those students say that they have experienced an issue with registration due to holds, compared to 20% overall. So it's like we're finding folks with barriers, and this is giving them another one. Again, we'll get to the pros and cons, because there certainly are pros for holds, but that's what we're seeing in the data. As far as its impact on actual graduation, this study found that 70% of students in this survey expect to graduate within the standard time frame. If they're at a 2-year school, it's 2, 4, it's 4, obviously. But of the people who said that they've had a hold on their account and been prevented from registering, just 59% felt confident that they would graduate in the right amount of time. So we have covered before the lack of finishing in some studies, the lack of completing a degree, and how much financial issues contribute to dropout rates. And I think it's showing itself again here. And these we've also cautioned against relating causation to things. These students are saying, I was unable to register at some point, and they're saying, I don't know if I'll graduate. Are those two correlated? I don't know. I haven't seen the study, but it's interesting that they do move in the same direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's maybe one of the advantages kind of a survey, right? Is that as opposed to like looking at a large data set of like factual data, like X amount of holds exist on X amount of student records in an SIS or whatever. When you survey, right, the survey taker can draw some of those correlations for you, right? So even if that's anecdotal, right, you put those anecdotes together, a sufficient amount of times, and you can start to piece those correlations together. This survey that we're talking about currently, again, this is a published article from Inside Higher Ed, and the data is coming from the Inside Higher Ed and College Pulse Student Voice Survey that they conducted in 2023, and it had about 3,004 undergraduates, so 3,004 undergraduates. They got the extra 4 there. So that's where
I
this data
will
is coming
one
from.
more stat before we move on to the first article you're going to talk about, and that's for first generation respondents. So individuals who did not have a parent that completed a degree, 50% of them have been unable to register due to a hold. So another group with barriers and low graduation rates, finding this as one of those barriers.
Absolutely.
So that's the biggest percentage of a subgroup that we've seen who have had trouble in this study anyway. So there you go.
Hey everyone, it's Timothy Davis. Element 451 is hosting the AI Engage Summit on October 29th and 30th. This free virtual event is going to feature many of your favorite Enrollify creators and is going to explore AI's impact on student engagement, enrollment marketing, and institutional success. Learn how to tap into the power of AI to turn data into actionable insights, utilize predictive analytics, and monitor and support student performance. Plus, you can hear directly from current students on how AI is influencing their engagement in campus life. So don't miss Jamie and I's session, Predictive Analytics in Action, How Element 451 Drives Student Success with AI-Powered Insights, on October 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern. The AI Engage Summit is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your school. Registration is free, so visit element451.com to save your spot. All right, now let's get back to the show. Absolutely.
What'd you find?
Yeah, so hopping over to another Inside Higher Ed article, kind of painting out the picture here, right? So we've identified that there's a lot of students from various risk populations that are experiencing issues with financial holds affecting their ability to persist towards graduation, or at least be retained at an institution. But this other study that I'm pulling from a separate Inside Higher Ed article that we'll link in the show notes is finding that 6.6 million learners are affected by stranded credits. So that's credits that students have earned but are not able to access for transfer or re-enrollment due to financial holds placed on their account. So that's like a transcript hold. So like if you were wanting to transfer to a separate institution, you wouldn't like be able to bring your transcript with you because of a financial hold or a transcript hold in this case on your account at the existing university. So again, that kind of paints out the picture here, right, of how severe this issue can be and for how many the impact blast radius of this issue in the higher ed landscape. So those things together, right, we can see kind of how holds can negatively impact students. But there were some interesting comments that provided kind of a nuanced perspective here on that LinkedIn post that I'm going to read through really quick so we can kind of balance this out. So the first comment I want to read is from Sarah P., who is a higher ed administrator. Sarah says, financial holds in higher education have traditionally been used to ensure students meet their financial obligations. Many institutions are now shifting towards a more proactive and supportive approach. Rather than simply imposing holds, colleges are increasingly nudging students with timely reminders to provide clear instructions on how to access resources for financial assistance. This approach not only helps students address immediate bills, but also connects them to funding options for future tuition and fees. And I think that this is a really great example of like what holds are intended to do. We don't have to necessarily always interpret holds as being like malicious, right? They're just products of inefficient systems. Is how we might be able to say that. So like if you're able to effectively communicate to a student, if you're able to nudge them and remind them, send them alerts, send them messages, timely reminders of what they need to do to complete their process through enrollment or through retention, right? Whatever that looks like, then putting a hold on their account is less necessary, or it sort of reframes how that sort of works. I think that underscores the importance of being able to being able to do that at scale, right? Being able to understand a student's status in your institution, what they need, what they have not yet completed process-wise, and being able to communicate that to them in a streamlined way, right? Right now, a lot of institutions are struggling to be able to put all that comprehensive information together, and so their communications out to that student are really disparate, right? Like financial aid is sending one set of emails, the registrar's office is sending another set of emails, an advisor is setting a third set of emails, and they're all saying, slightly different things. It becomes difficult for that student to piece all that information together. The more we can bring all that together comprehensively and provide like one communication that covers everything that student needs to do, or maybe even like a portal that they can log into and manage their relationship with your institution, the better off they can be and the more timely you can provide information to them.
Yeah, and I think that's a positive point out by several other commenters on this post, is that this a hold does provide an opportunity to ensure that the student is aware of their situation. It can be preventative if they don't know what they owe, and then maybe the next term's bill's added, and at that point the number just looks astronomical and it impacts them in a number of different ways, and it's an insurmountable number to pay. Or it's just to inform them of the process, right? The one question that is a problem when talking about this is every school is so different. For some schools, you're going to need to have your bill under $3,000. For some schools, you're going to have your bill under $100. Huge difference. For some, you just need to go talk to your counselor and get a payment plan, no matter how much you owe. So there's so much variability there, but the hold does allow the student to come in and have a conversation with somebody who is educated about that process, so that they can know this is your current situation and these are your options to resolve it, so that you may move forward in your progression. So certainly a lot of positives pointed out there. And I was a bit surprised by that. I expected the crowd on LinkedIn to be more set on advocacy and for the student to say that these are preventative, but they are advocating for the student and that they're keeping them more informed. So it was a great twist that I didn't expect to see in the comments.
Yeah, for sure. Another one here from Stephanie Job. Stephanie kind of gives an example of what it's like when students don't have this communication or don't understand their current relationship or status with the institution. Stephanie says they can protect students too. Students think that if they don't pay, they will be dropped. Won't be able to register. I've seen so many students who don't understand when they were given leeway, or then were angry when they didn't realize a class wasn't actually dropped, or that they had a balance from the semester before. If we remove holds, we need to far better educate and communicate about what that does to the student long term. The need for communication is there, right? We need to be able to allow the student to fully understand where they stand with the institution, what their bill is, what classes they are registered for, right? If you can't see what classes you're registered for, you say I want to drop this class, and you're not sure if that's actually happened, but now you're seeing it on your bill. You're like, what is this? Why am I being charged for this thing that I thought I dropped? I remember even when I was in, going through my undergrad, adding and dropping classes was a slip of paper that you filled out in person at the registrar's office, right? Which is crazy. And then they, run that, within the next day, and then you could come back.
Got to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they'd come back, and you could come back to the office at your leisure and, and pick up. Exactly. And pick up a new copy of your transcript. And there you go. Then you know what you're enrolled in, what you're being billed for. So yeah, just assembling all that information needs to be as easy as possible for the student. Because I think in general, students will manage themselves when informed. Students are adults. They're going to take care of business, but they just need to know how to do that. And doing, legacy analog systems is not what students are expecting, right? When you can manage the rest of your life digitally, right? When you can manage, I'm renewing my driver's license in Texas online, right? You can manage that. You can manage, your relationship to the government, your relationship to the services that you pay for, the subscriptions you pay for, all that sort of stuff. But then you come to higher ed and you're expected to pull together all these pieces of paper in your folder and piece that information together yourself. So that's a paradigm shift for a lot of students.
And you have to have the course code and the signature of sometimes the signature of the instructor for that course. So it's a lot of legwork that like you said, we're not used to. You brought up the government, so a little bit of a transition here. There was a policy enacted this summer that I think may change this conversation a bit, at least on the post-grad side. There is legislation that has been passed that supposedly is going to make it not legal, not allowed to prevent a student from getting their transcript when they owe money if those credits were paid for by federal dollars. So if there's federal aid going to that student and that money was applied to credits, then those credits cannot be withheld from them no matter if they owe money or not. Now, the problem is you have your student financial aid package. You see how much you owe. You see how much money you have coming in. Who's to say what money goes where? So some people are speculating that that's going to lead to an end for transcript holds altogether, because who's to say, well, you can get these 3 classes, but not those 2 for this term or whatever. Like, that's almost impossible.
Yeah, that would be a very granular level of accounting to do, right? Because like when you get a bill, you take that aggregate dollar amount and then you take the aggregate amount of aid that you've gotten and then you just apply that aid over to the bill, right? So
Yeah.
what part of the bill did that cover?
Yeah, is the institution going to say all your federal money went to this class, or is it me to say I'm going to put $1 from my federal money on this class and 1 on that class, like to protect them? Nobody.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen. And the article where I'm referencing here says that there are about 6 million students that this should impact directly on being able to access their transcript. 6 million people the transcript holds.
Yeah. For sure, which is very similar to the folks that in that other study that we cited, 6.6 million learners affected by stranded credits.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, we're getting a sense of the number of students that impacts. So a lot to consider here, and this might be a good question to dig into your data at your institution about, right? Being able to pull together and seeing how holds affect persistence, what populations holds affect the most. Those could be really important questions to provide answers to your institution. But when it comes to reforming them, that can be those policies that can be really complicated because it would be nice if that was fully managed by the institution. But there's a variety of system level, state, and federal legislation that also goes into that. So the regulatory environment is pretty sophisticated when it comes to that. So understanding the environment that affects your institution can also be very helpful.
Yeah, very complex, but certainly worth taking a look at every now and then to assess your policies, assess your practices, and make sure that the intention, helping the student, is what your current system is pointing toward. So this is a good, call to action to go and give that another look.
Absolutely. Well, I think this will wrap up our episode today. Thanks for joining us at the EduData Podcast. We'll hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.
The EduData Podcast is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like the other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month. We've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Artis Cadu, Dustin Ramsdale, Jeremy Tiers, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.